you were upset also included a statement that you were different from other public figures in Washington. What do you mean by that?
I'm afraid you'd have to ask him. I always thought I was quite normal.
The bicentennial will come during your tenure here in the White House. Do you have any thoughts about special things that you'd like to do in that very special period?
I'm working on that now, and I have not come to the conclusion. I haven't had the time. We really have been here a very short time. In fact, we're not completely moved, and I really would not want to specifically say what particular project.
Ms. Ford, because the President was in the Navy, if you will be invited to visit the Navy, Marines, or Coast Guard residents for the widows of officers as well as the home, would you plan to go and visit these? They are here in the Washington.
Yes, I know they are. I'm very familiar with this. And I think it's a very fine, fine tradition. I would hope that my schedule would allow me to go.
Mrs. Ford,
Last Wednesday, the President said that you had given him your time for the press conference, and that now he would have to get not only breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Is he getting breakfast or lunch or dinner?
I'm afraid he's become accustomed to the very good service we have in the upstairs family dining room. And he finds it quite convenient, so I can't promise you that he's getting his own breakfast.
Do you have any plans to go around the country and become acquainted or to know better the people than perhaps the opportunity of their coming here? In other words, I put that very badly.
Oh, I would certainly hope to. I hope to travel as much as I can with my husband.
Do you have any specific trips in mind, or?
Not at the moment, no, but I definitely hope to get around as possible.
or could I ask, what would be your preference for the winter White House or the summer White House? Would you want to go back to Vail, or is it too far away? Or
Vail, of course, naturally is our home in the Christmas, New Year's period.
get back and forth with me? I guess it would.
Yes, I think it's quite easy. My husband has made trips back and forth during our trips out there.
Turn into the summer White House then, winter White House.
Winter and summer.
What part will Susan play?
Susan is going to be very busy going to school, and I'm sure she'll be helping me a lot with the children because she already has had the experience of working with those underprivileged and retarded children.
What do you think of the job of the Maria Estela Perón, the first woman who became president in the country?
Would you repeat that, please?
This is your opinion. What do you think of the job of Mrs. Maria Estela Perón, the first woman president in America?
Well, not having been or had the privilege of visiting down there, I would not have the possibility, I couldn't possibly make a comment on that.
You haven't had much chance to travel abroad, and do you look forward to visiting other countries with your husband?
I have traveled abroad quite a bit. We've been in many countries. We've been in Europe, we've been in Russia, we've been in China, and many of the Far Eastern countries.
Will you be going to Japan with your husband?
I certainly hope so.
Mrs. Ford, your husband has talked with former President Nixon since the Nixons left the White House. Have you talked with Mrs. Nixon?
Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to speak with Pat. We have corresponded, and Julie, I just received a nice note from Julie just today.
Mrs. Ford, what about the rooms in the White House, or the certain spots in the White House? What are your favorites?
I think the White House is a really, truly beautiful spot. And it's very hard to pick out a favorite room. I would say that perhaps the blue room is one of the prettiest, and that's one of the reasons we used it for entertaining.
Mrs. Ford, whether you're here for 2 years or 6, what sort of footprint would you like to leave here at the White House? How would you like to be remembered? Or what?
Well, I'd like to be remembered in a very kind way. Also as a constructive wife of a president. I don't expect to come anywhere near living up to those first ladies who have gone before me. They've all done a great job, and I admire them a great deal, and it's only my ambition to come close to it.
Lord, people look to you as an extremely normal woman. The country looks to family and looks to the court's normality. And you say your husband is starting to enjoy the service upstairs. We're not in a normal situation here with cameras. Do you have any strategy for maintaining that normality over the next few years?
I see no reason why we can't maintain that normal family relationship just as we have. In fact, I was completely dumbfounded the way the children adjusted. I was afraid that it would be an adjustment, more of an adjustment for them than it would be for Mr. Ford and for me. But they just were perfectly happy. We have had servants at home, so it isn't as if we're not used to having help.
The performing arts, you came out in the press yesterday saying you're greatly in favor of expanding performing arts in the schools throughout the country. Do you have any, can you elaborate on the press that was in the Post yesterday?
This is something that I think will probably have to be a program that I don't know that it can be funded federally or not. I have to look into that situation. It may be a program that those children who are interested in art, it will be available to them. And this is something, a technicality that has to be.
Mrs. Ford, could you tell us what Julie was writing to you about today? You said you just have a note card.
Well, we correspond regularly, my husband, Julie, and we're all good friends.
But anything specific?
No, she was just thanking me for a phone call that she missed, and I talked to David.
Mrs. Ford, how frequently do you plan on having meetings like this with the press?
As often as I think that the press has anything to ask of interest.
If you look into the question of cancer research as soon as you can with the president and see if we can't expedite that program.
I'll be glad to. Only too happy.
Are you keeping a diary or some sort of record that might...
Bonnie, I hope you were keeping it for me.
Mrs. Ford, with your interest in the dance, and you met the other day for several hours with Nancy Hanks.
That's correct.
The National Ballet, is there any chance of that coming back, or is that down the drain?
Well, I would hope that the National Ballet certainly would be able to come back. I think this is a financial situation, and I think that in order to have good artists here, to have good ballet, we have to have the finances, and somehow that has to be arranged, and we have to do it without taking all the cream off the top and mixing up or homogenizing the thing.
Do you see any future for it coming back or not?
Yes, I do.
Mrs. Ford, are you a swimmer, and how soon do you think there'll be a swimming pool out?
Well, if it takes as long as it took to build our swimming pool, it'll be at least a year. I hope there will be one sometime, and yes, I am a swimmer.
Mrs. Ford, who are your favorite presidents, I mean, former late presidents and first ladies?
I'm sorry, I declined to answer that because I have many favorites and for many reasons. I think each had their own individualistic characteristic, and I really would not want to specify.
Well, I see President Lincoln is behind you, and President Roosevelt used to be there.
Yes, I suppose that's true.
Since you're the hostess, the location of the swimming pool, there's some speculation that the swimming pool may go into the kennel, or maybe the press will go into the kennel. Where do you think the pool should go?
Well, I wouldn't want the press to go into the kennel. That would be the last thing in the world. And I wouldn't want the kennel either to go. I think perhaps if there is such a thing as a swimming pool, and I say if, they can find a spot that won't disturb the press or the dogs.
Themselves to American designers, and I know you have an extensive wardrobe. Will you include the European designers, or will you stick strictly to the American?
I'm quite sure I'll be with American designers.
American designers.
Ms. Ford, may I ask if you will get another sugar? The president.
The golden retriever.
Two golden retrievers.
Yes, we have had 2 golden
Do you
retrievers.
think you might get another?
I would doubt it at the moment. I have my hands full right now without...
Need a Paula or somebody around here.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Really.